So this is 2 years on from my last video, and I'm in a very different place. I'm working now as a social worker, and I have been since February 2015, just a month after I finished my MA. I was lucky enough to be employed by the local authority I was working with before my MA, and it's a privilege to be a social worker, and I still feel that feeling when someone says, and this is Jen, and she is the child social worker, that proud feeling that I'm here for this child, I'm here to protect this child. So that's my area. I'm in child protection, and I love it. I'm stressed by it. I'm tired. Sometimes I'm scared by it. Sometimes I'm excited by those moments that someone once called twinkle moments, and they do happen, and I'm glad they happen because they cancel out the more difficult times. So how does the book group work now for me as a practitioner? I think for the first year of my practice, I kind of went just silent a bit on Twitter, which is where I'd first heard about book group. I couldn't have space for much more than my family, my job, trying to have a bit of self-care. So I started running, and my friends and my wider family. So I was just trying to kind of get through that first year, which I knew would be really hard and was almost harder than my MA. And last summer, by chance, I was still occasionally sort of going onto Twitter, saw that there was going to be an ad hoc book group, and I was on holiday, luckily, and I was able to download the book onto my Kindle whilst I was in Spain, and I was able to take part in an online book group, and it reminded me how amazing it was to be part of something where you can share a book with people, and not just a book, but with social workers, and you can look at the themes and you can answer specific questions about it, which I think I said in my first video. I kind of need that activeness about it. I need to have a very specific focus. So that really works for me, and it still works for me. And I'm understanding how it works for me in practice as a social worker. So I'm really, really excited now to be able to think about having a social work book group for practitioners and how that will help me and my learning. I've just looked back at some of the tweets that we had for that book group, and I remember there were some things that I look back now, even then at the time I look back and think, oh, why did I say that? Why did I think that? And now actually I don't think that. I know that that's different. So even from last year, I can see how much I've learned as a social worker in practice, and how I'll apply that differently to the book, how I'll think about the characters differently. But why a book group for practitioners? Don't we spend our days talking about cases? Do we want to hide away? Do we want to just escape from social work? Yeah, we do. I do. But we also have to have continuous professional development. And I loved it as a student, and I love it still as a practitioner. And I loved it last September, just being involved on Twitter. So here we are again with the same book, but different practitioners, different people involved who, well, say that they're going to be there. And I believe they will be. I think this is going to be big and exciting, and there'll be lots of different conversations. And sometimes that can be difficult on Twitter, much more difficult than if we were in the same room, almost like a lot of people talking at once. But it works. It works. And I think it's like having the same level playing field of information about a family, about a story, about their history, their background, what happens, and then it finishing, almost like a case closing. and we wonder what's going to happen next. That sometimes anxious feeling about closing a case. Will it be okay? Will those children be okay? Will that family be okay? Will the parents be okay? Will I be okay? When will it come back in? Will it come back in? I hope it doesn't come back in. So we know the same information, but we have our different lenses. We have our just qualified social workers. We'll have our been qualified for years and years. And we learn from each other. A social worker on my team who I love going out with, I love watching her practice and learning from her practice, because I learn from you. I learn from you watching you in a meeting, which makes me feel as though I'm doing something right. And that feedback is essential. So when we're discussing a book, whether it be in the same room or on Twitter, we can have that feedback. We can discuss those issues in that book about that family, about that child, about that parent, and we can understand it together. And like I did last year, we could say things that might not be quite right, that someone might disagree with, and that's okay, because I've looked back and I've learned, I've reflected and I've learned from it. I want to take it into my local authority. I want to take it into my team or just other social workers who work in the same building or just other teams, because I think although it's going to be amazing on Twitter, I think it will be just as amazing to be sat in a room with social workers looking at books and looking at stories and trying to unpick the themes that we need to understand and learn from. And in the homecoming of Samuel Lake, there is so much that we can learn from, that will touch us in different ways about the family. The issues that can come out of it are far and wide. And it's brilliant that it's going to be hosted by It's Mother's Work again, because the blog that she wrote for it afterwards encapsulated how much there is to learn from this book. So I'm really excited that there's going to be a plethora of practitioners learning from this book in September. So I don't need to persuade you that it's a great thing, hopefully. A lot of people are already on board. And if you're not, hopefully you'll join us now.